Afternoon. Brian here from the Big Weather Guy channel. Gonna go through the setup for what's gonna happen this late this afternoon into this evening and the overnight across the southeast U.S. Things are shaping up for a pretty stormy night, and there's a fairly strong risk of tornadoes and wind damage across much of the South. So we're going to go through that a little bit. The Storm Prediction Center has outlined this area of risk in orange, which is the enhanced risk, which is level 3 out of their 5 levels. Basically, a portion from Shreveport up to Memphis, Birmingham, Montgomery, and to Mobile, and just along the coast there north of New Orleans. That is the greatest risk for severe weather today, and then some lesser amount risk surrounding that, heading up towards Nashville and Atlanta area and so on. As I said, there is a tornado risk today. Well, this evening, tonight, and overnight. Uh, the risk is not so much for supercell tornadoes, more towards the tornadoes that are embedded in the squall line. And those tend to be a little more difficult to pick out on radar. They tend to develop a little faster than supercells, though the damage from QLCS tornadoes, as those are called, squall line tornadoes, tend to be a little less pronounced than supercell tornadoes. And that has to do today with the timing of the upper level system, and we'll talk a little bit about that. It's coming in a little bit later than would be conducive for the supercells, which is why it's going to be later in the day, evening and overnight event. And then towards the eastern half here, looking towards Jackson and eastward, is where you're going to see a little heightened risk of wind damage, severe wind risk. Looking at the upper level system here, this is the observed conditions at 500 millibars. So you're talking about, 15,000, 18,000 feet up. And we have a nice broad trough here, broad low pressure across the Four Corners region. And that is what is going to swing east out of Texas and into the southeast. However, you can see this is from this morning's soundings. The axis of the trough here through New Mexico, Colorado, is hanging quite a bit farther west than would be. Now, if this trough axis were here in the morning, we'd be looking at a very severe outbreak of tornadoes across the southeast, just because the timing of the upper level support would be in line with the low level moisture and instability. But still, the trough coming in out of the west is going to provide support eventually for some very severe weather tonight. Moving down, it's at the 850 millibars, so this is just above the surface, a few thousand feet above the surface. You can see there's quite a bit of strong moisture advection from the Gulf moving northeast, pumping a lot of moisture, very strong low level jet here at 850 millibars, 50 plus knots. And that is primarily the reason why we expect to see a lot of QLCS tornadoes tonight as this whole system moves through the southeast, because that low level jet will really pump up the low level shear, and there's a lot of kinematics in the lower atmosphere to make these storms really kind of go crazy. Looking a little more closely at the surface, this is just a little bit ago. We have a warm front, which is draped across the southeast, which is the northern extent of the real strong moisture advection. North of that, it was pretty chilly, 46, with a 45-degree dew point here in northern Arkansas. But down here near New Orleans, Slidell, that area, we've got 80 degrees with a 67-degree dew point. So that moisture is starting to really respond to the low pressure getting pumped north. And the severe threat will really depend on how far north this front and all this moisture really makes it before things kick off. I'm not going to go too deeply into here, but this is the forecasted model radar output, and it shows this is about 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern time. By that point, we should have things really starting to kick off across Arkansas and the far northwest corner of Louisiana. And this area here in front, depending upon how much destabilization gets going, if anything does kick off here in front of this squall line, this linear feature here, that would have the highest risk to be to put down a dramatic tornado. Moving forward, then you see towards this is midnight central, 1 a.m. Eastern. You can see the progression as that squall line pushes east, and with a lot of really strong winds, and they expect quite a bit of rotation in these cells inside the squall line. And cells that do pop have it if there's enough upper level support up at that 500 millibar level. If it swings far enough east to support, that's where you're going to have real risk of some tornadoes. So definitely look out for weather after dark, after about 6 p.m. Central, towards much of Louisiana, eastern half of Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, and much the western 2/3 of Tennessee. One other thing that we want to bring to everybody's attention today is towards the north side of that warm front, up into Kentucky, there along the Mississippi Valley, up into the Ohio Valley, is we have a great risk of excessive rainfall and flooding. You've already gotten quite a bit of precipitation there in the last couple of days, and the Weather Service is really painting a pretty dire situation there along the Ohio River through southern uh, Kentucky, much of Kentucky actually, and northwestern Tennessee. That area is really looking like it could really see some strong flooding impacts today, tonight, and into tomorrow from all the rainfall that is still expected to come through with this system on the north side with a severe threat. And just a reminder that flooding every year usually causes more fatalities in the U.S. than lightning, tornadoes, hurricanes, etc. It's sort of the not so flashy risk that everybody faces in weather hazards. So always be careful if you live in flood-prone areas or if you're driving through flood-prone areas to not dive into water. It's just not worth it. Take the long way home. Anyway, I will post this and try to this evening as things start kicking off. Keep up with the latest in the warnings and let everybody know how things are progressing. All right, thanks.